Brian, what prompted you to run for this position?
Well, originally, when I first ran for Gearing School Boards, I was part of a Leadership Nebraska program, and one of their tenets was education, and that kind of got me interested in how I might be able to give back. And when I got back, I thought, Gearing Public Schools was such an influence on my life, and all 4 of our kids were in Gearing schools, and so I decided that was a way I could give back to my community and back to Gearing. So I ran for school board. Decided to continue to run again. It's been difficult, but it's a work of passion, and we've done a lot of hard work. We're not there yet. People have addressed the issues. We're surrounded by a great administrative team. We have got the best teachers in the state. We have wonderful kids. We are on a great path, but we have a lot of work left to do. And so I hope to continue that work, and it's my passion that keeps driving me, and it's what continues us to put in the hours we do each month to work towards that vision of making Gearing the best district it can be.
Brian, what is your philosophy when it comes to parental involvement in the development of curricula and other issues affecting their child's education?
Well, I think Greg stated a very important point, is that parent involvement in curriculum and then parent involvement are 2 very distinct issues. Parent involvement in curriculum is an issue that we have policies for, where they can visit with at the teacher level if they have concerns or issues, where they can take that up with teachers, administrators, where there is a definite policy of development of that curriculum as it goes through the district, to develop those policies for specific curriculum ideas and how that's developed. Parental involvement, I think if you talk to most teachers, if they go to parent-teacher conferences, they would want every parent there, and it just doesn't happen. And as Krista stated at the beginning, there's a lot of kids that don't have any parental involvement. And so I think that's what, as a board member, you have to understand, and really open my eyes on the board, is that we have nearly 2,000 kids in the district, and not everybody has that influence at home, and you have to learn how to balance all of those different economic, social backgrounds merged into a district and teach all of them effectively and represent them equally. And it's difficult, but we need to try and do it and provide them involvement that they need.
Thank you. Thank you. Brian, what other career pathways would you like to see developed?
Well, we've done a lot of heavy lifting over the last several years to get Gearing where we are today with our career pathways. We heard from our community. We recently have our ag program, started our FFA program, which was much sorely needed and took a long time to get there. Our ag program is now, we're producing food that we use in our own cafeteria. We're not quite fully self-sufficient, but we're getting close. We have our aviation pathway program, which this last year we were one of 5 schools in the country that got a $500,000 grant towards our aviation program. As far as wants and needs, we need to recognize the need, as was stated earlier, that many of these kids need to be identified that they're not going to pursue, maybe they can't afford, but they are going to pursue a vocation. Our construction program was certified this past fall for kids to pursue their construction management degree. We need to expand that for drywalling, electrical, plumbing as well. And we need to work on our mechanical side for diesel mechanics, small engine repair, and potential electric car repair for the future. So we need to work on that, and those are goals we have for those programs as we develop the VOTEC side of that equation as well.
Thank you, Brian. Gearing Public Schools has partnered with Scottsbluff Schools in a number of areas, some extracurricular activities, like notably the swim team. How much farther should collaboration go, and would you ever consider an instance to consolidate the districts?
Well, I think collaboration has always been on the table, and we, as a board, we've been open to it. Obviously, they've mentioned some instances. Switching our schedule, it has allowed us to align more closely with Scotts Bluff's schedule. I know in the past there's been some classes that we've tried to utilize that maybe one district or the other district has had, where we've tried to get kids in and utilize teachers in one or the other to collaborate in that manner. So there are some things along those lines that will always come up, and I think leadership between both districts is good, and we can continue those conversations, and something we always want to do. Consolidation, I don't feel will ever happen. Gearing and Scotts Bluff are already becoming more and more unique because we're pretty much the only Class B schools in the Panhandle anymore. Our population base continues to shrink in the Panhandle. If we were to merge and become a Class A school by NSAA standards, it will be even more problematic. So there are some other considerations there as well, alongside many others, the communities and things of that nature, but mainly competition. I mean, I'm all for it. It has driven us to be the best we can be, and it has driven Gearing to push our career academies. It has driven this board to make decisions to give kids and the parents the most choices they can, and that's what we'll continue to do, to be the most competitive we can and offer the most choices.
Thank you. The district has had to secure a line of credit with a local financial institution to protect district cash flows. What do you believe the district needs to do to stabilize funding, especially when state aid fluctuates year to year?
Well, I guess I'm on the hot seat on this one. There's a lot of talk about that, obviously, and the last 2 years being COVID years, obviously the district had to expend a lot of money in many cases up front before we got money returned from the federal or the state governments for some expenses. And as we went into the years, the way property taxes are distributed, they come in chunks throughout different times of the year. So when payrolls come, the cash flows are depleted before sometimes we get money from the state. So to protect ourselves, we applied for that line of credit just in case we would need to get it, depending when payrolls might need to be met, so we didn't have to dip into the general fund or any other funds. We have not had to do that. Actually, we just came from a business meeting this morning. We're 11% below our budgetary spending for the year so far, and we're projected to have $2 million in our general fund by the end of this year. So we have done a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, I think our superintendent, our new director of finance this year, that has found funds and savings, a way to apply for new revenue streams and write grants to help pay for things that have contributed to that. So thankfully we haven't had to tap into that, but it was just a stopgap measure in case we might need to tap into it.
Thank you. Brian, what do you believe the board's stance should be when it comes to the proper age to begin sex education, and when should controversial subjects of gender identity and fluidity be introduced?
Well, I think, when the state Board of Education took on that project, they wanted to try and develop and maybe modernize some standards, and they kind of brought on a lot of controversy, and some of it was warranted, what they were trying to do. But lost in the bigger picture was the message that ultimately it is down to the local school board control. And as we've said, that's a relationship with your community. And I think the message here is that we have to continually listen to our parents. And I don't think there's a blanket age. We have to obviously educate and continually educate our kids to be safe and healthy and have standards in our school. I do not agree it's appropriate to teach them about gender identity and fluidity, is my personal belief. I don't think that's something that I would trust to have someone have that conversation with my child, but I think that would happen at home, and, you know, that also trust our educators that we are creating critical, independent thinkers, and that they could, you know, feel comfortable asking a teacher or asking an administrator and bringing a parent in to talk to them about that.
Brian, should the grading scale be that rigorous, or should it conform more closely to post-secondary grade scales?
Well, I can tell you from experience, when we modified our schedule, one of the issues that came up was our grading scale. And we polled our students and the parents, and the students overwhelmingly wanted to keep the grading schedule or level. Two of my daughters were valedictorians at Gearing, fortunately, and I will tell you, Gearing students are well known when you go to other parts of the state or go to colleges. They know the rigor that is involved. Now, maybe Gearing students are gluttons for punishment. I don't know. But they look at the ACT scores. And I know that maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, 90 to 100, I get it. I mean, they go to college, that's what it is. That's what it is across the river. You can say you've got a 4.0. That's what the kids wanted, and it was really a surprise to me. It does make them work hard. It causes a lot of stress. I mean, my girls, their senior year, there are some issues with, in some cases, some of the kids might not take the rigor, and those are conversations we need to have addressed if they're worried about that. But it does push the kids, and so that is something that we asked them about, and they wanted.
Brian, at the end of your next four-year term, if you're reelected, how would you define success?
Ditto. We have come through 2 years of unprecedented issues with COVID, and it was difficult. I mean, we took a lot of barbs. We were uncharted territory. We did the best we could. We wanted to keep kids in school. Our staff was amazing. Our teachers kept teaching, our administrators kept managing, and our custodians kept cleaning. And we have a superintendent and central office administrators who are phenomenal educators, who are excited and proud to be Gearing Bulldogs and want and are part of the fabric of this community. And as Krista said, we are excited to keep moving this district forward. Gearing is a destination district. When we go to Omaha for our convention, or we go to Lincoln for a governmental thing, people ask about Gearing. I mean, Gearing is the buzz of the town. Our aviation program, our FFA kids. I mean, everything we do, they're like, what is Gearing doing? I mean, they're like, how do you guys do this in the district this size? We are doing things that has not been done before, and we want to continue that momentum. And our superintendent, all the way down to teachers, custodial, and students, we want to do that and be proud of being a Gearing Bulldog.
Thank you. Okay, we will give each of you 1 minute for closing statements. Brian was up next, so Brian, you get to go first with your closing statement.
Okay. Well, when I decided to run for school board, it was out of a desire to give back to a place that's given me so much. I graduated from Gearing, and all 4 of my kids graduated from Gearing as well. Gearing Public Schools has given me and our family a great foundation to build our futures. This is why I chose to serve. I didn't choose to run on an agenda. Instead, I wanted to learn about education and find out what made Gearing great and what I could do to make it even better. During my time, we've expanded our preschool offerings to full days at all the elementary buildings, established a Links program to provide credit recovery for students, and we have launched our Ag Pathway and FFA program, just to name a few. Serving on the board is a privilege that I take seriously. Our community has shown great support for our schools, and I know the trust they place in us. It's been my pleasure to serve on the board, and I hope that with your vote, I can continue to work, because the future is bright for the kids in our district, and they are proud to be Gearing Bulldogs.
I'd like to thank all of our candidates running for Gearing Public Schools Board of Education for participating in tonight's forum. Greg, Brian, John, Krista, Rick, Mike, Gloria, Brandon, Colleen, thank you all for being here. We hope you at home, this helps you in deciding who you wish to vote for. As a reminder, in the May 10th primary election, you'll be allowed to vote for 3 candidates. The top 6 vote getters in the primary election will advance to the November general election. This candidates forum is one of several being presented by the Government Affairs Committee of the Scottsbluff-Gearing United Chamber of Commerce. We again would like to thank the Rural Radio Scottsbluff staff for recording this forum so you can view it, the timers, students from Gearing Public Schools for volunteering, the Chamber staff, and the Gearing Civic Center for hosting us this evening. On behalf of the Scottsbluff-Gearing United Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee, and for my co-chair Don Wolf, I'm Bill Boyer. Thank you for joining us, and remember, get out and vote.